I'm just going to work through this review packet with you today. If you have questions or whatever, hopefully this will help explain where I'm getting all of the answers from. Determining where the angle lies, 4 pi over 3. Remember 1 pi is over here, 2 pi and 0 pi are over here. So 4 and 1/3 is the same as 1 and 1/3. So we have quadrant 3. Same thing for this one, except for remember that when you have a negative angle, it goes down. 4/8 is a half, so this isn't quite a half a pi. So this is in quadrant 4. Complementary and supplementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees or half a pi. Supplementary are two angles that add up to 180 or pi. So if you think about a half a pi in terms of 12, that would be 6 pi over 12. So 6 pi take away 5 pi is 1 pi over 12. And a whole pi out of 12 would be 12 out of 12 pi. And 12 take away 5 is 7 pi over 12. So the complementary angle is pi over 12, and the supplementary is 7 pi over 12 for letter C. Determine the quadrant where 318 negative degrees is. Again, negative goes down, almost a full circle. We are in quadrant 1. Complementary and supplementary angles for degrees. Again, 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So 90 minus 34 is 56 degrees. And 180 take away 34 is 146 degrees. So E. Rewrite using the degree measure. Well, remember our conversion is either pi over 180 or 180 over pi. So I want to get rid of pi and turn to degrees. So pi is going to go on the bottom, 180 on the top. Pi on the top and pi on the bottom cancel. 7 times 180 is 1260. Divided by 4 is 315 degrees. Convert now from degrees to radians. So we have 342.1 degrees. I want degrees gone now, so degrees has to go on the bottom, pi on the top. So 342.1 times pi, then divided by 180 gives me 5.971. Determine the value of sine. Well, remember, cosine is your x value, sine is your y value, tangent is your y over x value. So the sine is our y value, or negative 726. A. Find the point that corresponds on the unit circle. So you need to get your unit circle out. We are looking for 7 pi over 4, which is down here, and square root 2 over 2, negative square root 2 over 2. E. Evaluate the 6 trig function. If the find the cosecant at 5 pi over 6. Well, first of all, I need to look for 5 pi over 6 on my unit circle, and it is at 150 degrees. Cosine is negative square root 3 over 2, sine is 1/2. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So if sine is 1/2, then cosecant is 2. Evaluate using period as an aid. This is when we want it to be between 0 pi and 2 pi. So 3 goes into 19. This is the same as 6 and 1/3 pi. 6 and 1/3 pi is not on the unit circle, so I need to keep taking away 2 pi's until I get into the unit circle, which is 1/3 pi. So now I need to find the sine of pi over 3. So when I use my unit circle, pi over 3 is right here at 60 degrees. Sine is my y value, and I have the square root of 3 over 2. Using a calculator, now make sure you're in the right mode. Remember when we have pi, we are in radian mode. So the sine of negative 14 pi divided by 5. And that is negative 0.5878. Again, use the calculator. The problem with this one is not only are we in radian mode, but secant is not on our calculator, so we're going to enter it as 1 over cosine of negative pi over 5. Because secant and cosine are reciprocals of each other. And when we do that, we get 1.2361. So making sure you're in your mode and making sure you know how to enter that into your calculator correctly. Use the Pythagorean theorem to find the third side. It says b is 16, c is 34. Remember, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So 34 squared is 1156. 16 squared is 256. And when I subtract them and take the square root of 900, a is 30. Now it says to find the sine of theta. Here's theta. So we have our opposite and our hypotenuse. So 16/34 is not one of my answers here, is it? So I have to reduce to 8/17. Okay, same thing for this one. It's the same values that we just used in the problem before, so I can go ahead and fill that in. Tangent is TOA, opposite over adjacent. So the tangent is 16 over 30, and again, it reduces to 8/15. Given sine is 3/4, find the secant. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. And so I have to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or 9 plus b squared equals 16, b squared equals 7, b equals the square root of 7. The cosine is cos, adjacent over hypotenuse. So the cosine is square root of 7 over 4. That means the secant is 4 over the square root of 7. And notice in our answers, you do not have to rationalize. So on this final test, you do not have to rationalize most of the time. So look for your answer before you get there. All right, given that the tangent is TOA, and that's 7, that's the same as 7 over 1. So opposite over adjacent, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 1 plus 49 equals c squared. C squared is 50, but we want the square root of 50. Now, we talked about simplifying squares. What perfect square goes into the square root of 50? The square root of 25 times the square root of 2. So c is 5 square roots of 2. Now that I finished my triangle, it says find the cosine. The cosine is ca, adjacent over hypotenuse, so the cosine is 1 over 5 square roots of 2. Again, normally we wouldn't leave it like this, but for the final, you do not have to rationalize. Solve for y. Well, we're given an angle, we have opposite, and we have adjacent. So, ca, toa, we're going to use tangent. The tangent of 60 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. Now, before you go to do this, look at our answers. Our answers are not by using a calculator right now. So first of all, I need to go to degree mode. And if I cross multiply, 1 times y is y, 8 times the tangent of 60 degrees, because now I'm in degree mode, gives me 13.85. Well, that's not any of these numbers over here. So now what do I do? Well, you could take 8 times the square root of 3, and that gives you 13.85. So that's my answer. Okay, you could have just found the numerical value to help it match what we got here. Okay. All right, number 19. Find the exact figure of the cosine. Well, we have the point 2, -4, so I'm able to create a triangle from that point. Over 2, down 4. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. And 4 plus 16 is 20. The square root of 20 can be rationalized by the square root of 4 times the square root of 5, or 2 square roots of 5. Remember, your hypotenuse is always positive. Cosine is ca, so adjacent over hypotenuse, which does simplify. 2 divided by 2 gives me 1 over the square root of 5, or letter D. It says that the point 1310 is on the terminal side. Find the sine. So that means we're going over 13, up 10. Find sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So I have to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 100 plus 169 gives me the square root of 269 for C. I see that over here, so I'm going to not do anything for a second. That's the nice thing about multiple choice is you might be able to use that to help you. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Is this one of my options over here? Yep. So I'm done. I'm going to stop here for the first part of the recording, and I'll record the second half in just a minute.